Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be sewing this blouse that you can see on your screen. So in my previous videos, we drafted out the pattern for the blouse. We also sewed the mermaid skirt. So I'll be leaving the link to the pattern drafting tutorial and that of the skirt in the comment section. So go ahead and watch it before you come join us on this particular one. It's going to help you understand better. So I've gone ahead to use my pattern paper to cut on my fabric. Okay, so the first one here is the yoke. So I went ahead to place my yoke on my fabric. The fabric is not on fold, okay? So I placed it and then I went ahead to cut all the way around. I added extra half an inch on the base, on the neckline area and on the shoulder area. The half an inch that I added is going to serve as my hemming allowance because I'm not cutting a lining piece for this yoke because my client wants to show off her skin. Or if you want to cut out a lining for your yoke, go ahead and cut out 2 pieces, okay? And then you're going to sew and turn inside out. But what I'll do is to cut out the fabric. I'll use it to pipe the neckline. I'll also use it to pipe the down part of the yoke. So guys, the next pieces here are the cups. As you can see, the fabric is way wider than the pattern paper, and that is because I'm going to use a ready-made bra cup. This cup is about 44 inches, so I bought 2 inches higher than my client's bust, round bust, okay? So it is 2 inches bigger than my client's round busts, okay? So I'm going to take in the dart. So I increased my fabric because I want this fabric to be enough to cover the cup. But if you are creating your own cup, all you have to do is to add half an inch allowance all the way around. But for this fabric, I added 1 inch all the way around the cup except the center. The center I added half an inch because I'll be sewing with half an inch on the center. That is the part that I'm supposed to join both cups together. I hope you guys are not confused. So that is the only part that I added half an inch. On the other part, which is the curvy part where the bra cup is going to sit, I added 1 inch all the way around. Even on the upper part, I added 1 inch, okay? So what I'll do now is to pick cup number 1, okay? So for cup number 1, I have 2 main piece and 2 lining piece. Cup number 2, I also have 2 main piece and 2 lining piece. So I'll pick cup number 1. I've already notched my center, so I know where the center is. At this point, I've also ironed hair stay to my fabric and my lining piece. So I'll pick cup number 1. I'll join it to cup number 2. So number 1 is the center, number 2 is the side. And you can see the notch that I have on the middle. That's the point where both cups will meet, okay? So I'm just going to pin like this, side by side. After pinning all the way down, make sure it matches, okay? As you can see me arranging the fabric. So once I pin, I'll go ahead and sew using the half an inch that I left on the center, okay? So I'll repeat the same thing for the other cups. I'll take cup number 1 and cup number 2. I'll place them right sides facing right side and I'll pin all the way to the end. After doing that, I'll head over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew with half an inch all the way down, okay? I'll also repeat the same thing for the lining piece. Pick cup number 1, join to cup number 2, pin, and then go ahead and sew using half an inch. After sewing, I'll go ahead and open the center and I'll iron it flat, okay? The next pieces here is the back piece. So I have the yoke and the main bodice for the back. So for the yoke, I went ahead to cut out 4 pieces, 2 main piece and 2 lining piece. So I want to double the yoke for the back, unlike the front. So I added half an inch on the neckline, on the shoulder area and on the base, okay? So what I'll do is to open it up for you guys to see, and I'm going to place them right side facing right sides. After doing that, I'll go ahead and sew the neckline. I'll add a loop to one part of the back, okay? I'll add a loop to that part using my Ankara piece, and then I'm going to sew the opening at the back close. I'm not going to sew the shoulder and the armhole area. So for the main piece, I've gone ahead to also cut it out. I added half an inch on the upper part and on the base. So what I'll do now is to transfer my dart. So I'm measuring what I have already, the length of the dart and where the dart is going to stop. So I'll go ahead and measure again, and I'll remove my pattern paper. So I'm going to come down by 1 inch, which way you can already see from that 1 inch the length of the dart is 6 inches, but I'm going to add this extra half an inch that I added. So on my fabric I'll go down by 1.5 inch. The length of the dart is 6 inches. Okay, just measure what you have on your pattern paper and then transfer it to the main fabric. Okay, so I have 4 pieces, 2 main piece and 2 lining piece. What I'll do now is to transfer my dart. To do that, I'll first of all mark out the zipper allowance. So remember I took out 1 inch from the zipper allowance on the waist area. I'll go ahead and mark the 1 inch on the waist area and the 2 inches on the base and on the upper part. After doing that, I'll go down by 1.5 inches. Okay, 1.5 inches because I have 1 inch on the pattern paper, and while I was cutting on my fabric, I added half an inch to my fabric. So what I'm doing now, from the dart leg, I'm marking my half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. That is what I use to take my dart. Okay, so I'm marking 4 inches all the way to the dart leg. Okay, so I'm going to measure. The length of the dart is 11 inches, so I'm going to mark all the way. So what I'm doing is transferring what I have on the pattern paper, I'm transferring it on my fabric. Okay, so at 6 inches is where I took in my dart. That 6 inches is the waist area, so I marked the 6 inches. On that 6 inches, I'm taking half an inch on both sides, which is exactly what is on my pattern paper. Okay, so I'm going to take half an inch on both sides. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from the waist to the upper part of the dart, as you can see, and from there to the lower part of the dart. So this is exactly what I have on the pattern paper. So I'll repeat the same thing for the rest of the fabric and the lining. As you can see, I've gone ahead to mark out the dart. Okay, so after doing that, I'll head over to my sewing machine and I'm going to hold the dart like this. I'll sew and I'll iron everything in place. So I'm doing this for the 4 pieces, the 2 main fabric and the lining piece, and then I'll go ahead and give it a good press. So guys, I've gone ahead to sew the cups in place and this is what I have. After sewing, I went ahead to open the seam up and I ironed it. I repeated the same thing for the main fabric. So this is what I have. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to bring in my bra cup. So this is the reason why I increased my fabric so the bra cup can fit in. But before I place my bra cup inside, I'm going to take the dart for my bra cup. I'm taking the dart because I don't want it to become flat by the time I'm done sewing. So in order for the bra cup not to be flat, what I'll do is to fold it like this. Okay, I'll fold it inward to the wrong side, and then I'm going to take half an inch on the upper part. Okay, so from the center I'm going to come in by half an inch. I'll also take the length of the dart, which is going to be 3 inches. Okay, I'll mark the 3 inches and then I'll go ahead and connect. So I'm going to just take the dart from this upper part down to this 3 inches, as you can see me marking with my pencil. I'll also go ahead and repeat the same thing for the other cup. Okay, so guys, I'm done piping the neckline for the yoke. I also piped the base of the yoke, as you can see. If you want to cut out 2 pieces to double the yoke, you can also go ahead and do that. Okay, so one thing I want to mention about this yoke is that I trimmed the base. So when cutting, you don't have to add half an inch to the base because it was long after sewing it, so I had to trim it. Even the base for the back, I still trimmed it. Okay, so this is what I had after sewing the back. I sewed the neckline and the back close, and I added loop to one end of the back. Okay, so I've also gone ahead to take in my dart for the back, as you can see. So I'm going to place them side by side. I took the dart also for the back, for the lining piece, and I went ahead to iron it flat. So you guys can see the lining piece. This is what it looks like. So this is the same thing that I did on the fabric. Okay, so what I'll do now is to bring the yoke and I'm going to place the yoke on the main bodice. Okay, so in order not to get confused, you can bring in your pattern paper just to know exactly where to place your yoke. So I'm going to place my pattern paper like this and figure out where the yoke is. The yoke started from my dart leg, so that is where I'm going to place my white fabric. Okay, so after figuring that out, I'm going to place my yoke exactly where it's supposed to be, and then I'm going to turn it over, placing it right side on the right side of my fabric like this. I'll cover it up with my lining after pinning, and then I'm going to pin all the way around as you can see me doing. After pinning, go ahead and sew. Okay, so the upper part, the two sides, I went ahead to sew the base first of all, but it's not necessary, so just go ahead and turn it inside out through the base, and then you're going to iron everything flat, and then repeat the same thing for the other side of the back. So guys, I've taken the darts for the cup and this is what they look like. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to cover this bra cup up using my fabric. I've already prepped my fabric. So what I'll do is to figure out where the center is. The center of the cup is the smallest part of the fabric. Okay, so I'm going to place my cup on the fabric like this, and then I'm going to arrange it and I'll pin all the way around. I'll pin in such a way that I'll have excess fabric on the upper parts that I'll be using to turn my lining. It makes it easy for you to turn your lining. Okay, so I'm going to sew on the cup, this space that was created on the cup to sew on. That's where I'm going to sew all the way around. I'll also go ahead and pin the other cup to the lining. Okay, making sure I have excess fabric on the upper part of the cup. After doing that, I'll also go ahead and sew. I've gone ahead to sew around the cup and this is what I have. So what I'll do is to cut off this excess fabric. Okay, I'm not cutting the cup, I'm cutting off the excess fabric on the base of the cup. Okay, I'll repeat the same thing for this other part of the cup. Okay, after doing that, this is what I have. So what I'll do now is to also shape my lining piece. This lining piece is still bigger than the cup and is supposed to fit. So what I'll do is to cover the cup up using my lining piece. Okay, if you like, you can pin all the way around and then go ahead and cut off the excess lining piece. Okay, so they're supposed to be the same, so I'm just shaping it so it's the same as the bra cup. So after shaping, this is what I have. So I'll repeat the same thing for the other lining piece. So guys, after shaping the lining piece, this is what I have for the two. So our bra cups are ready. So next thing we're going to do now is to place our lace fabric on the main bodice. So I'm just looking at the shape on this picture. Okay, so we'll try to get exactly what we can see. So I'll bring in my nets, my chantilly nets, and I'm going to place it on the main fabric. Okay, so first of all, I'll place it in a way that it covers everywhere, including the base, and then I'll now trace out the shape. Okay, so first of all, I'll trace out the shape on the base after pinning. So go ahead and pin everything down so it does not move when you are trimming. After doing that, I'll go ahead and trim the base. Okay, so we are sure of the shape that we have on the base. I'll trim that off first, and then I'll trim the side. If you look at the picture we are following, one side of the net is slanty. Okay, a bit is slanted, so I'll go ahead, figure out where you want to slant it from, but this other end I decided to make it cover every part of that end. Okay, so after doing that, just slant it a bit. Okay, so as you can see, after slanting it, I went ahead to fold it inward, and then I'm going to hem it all the way. Okay, so you're going to do that before you create your boning channel. Okay, I also went ahead to cut out my lining piece exactly like this. So I went ahead to just fold the excess inward and I ran a slanted stitch on it. Okay, so this is what I have. Okay, so this is not going to obstruct our boning channel, so it is important that you do this, the lace placement, you do that first before you create your boning channel. So this is the fabric I'll be using for my boning channel. Is about 1 inch on fold. So I'll just sew all the way for my boning channel. Okay, I've gone ahead to do that, guys, and this is what I have. So the next thing I'll do now is to sew the cup in place. So I'm going to figure out where the center is and I'll place them as you can see me doing. After doing that, I'll go ahead and sew the cup in place. So guys, after sewing my cup in place, I realized that this slanted line was too high. So what I did was to lose it and then I trimmed it a little just to give it this slanted shape. I also went ahead to sew my lining piece the same way that I sewed the main fabric. Okay, so after sewing, this is what I have. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to sew my yoke in place. So I've already prepped my yoke, then I'm going to place it like this. So just look at the way I'm placing it after the bra cup. Okay, so you can see that my yoke is now shorter because I had to trim it. The yoke became long because the chantilly net that I used is stretchy. So if you're using this stretchy fabric for the yoke, make sure the side that is stretchy is not the side that is on the base. Just that side should be on the armhole area. I don't know if you understand. Okay, so I had to trim my yoke to make it smaller, and while sewing, make sure you just try to adjust it on your body to make sure that the yoke is sitting where it's supposed to sit. So I pinned the yoke around the bra cup area as you can see, and this is what I have. What I'll do now is to cover it up with my lining piece. So make sure the lining piece and the main fabric is matching. All the seams should align. Okay, and then go ahead and sew on the neckline and on the sides. I'm not going to sew the base. Okay, after sewing the fabric and the lining together, I went ahead to iron everything in place, and this is what it looks like. So if you have any excess on the base, go ahead and just trim it off. Okay, the next thing I'll do now is to fix my boning to the boning channel. So I've gone ahead to cut out my bonings. I'm using this plastic boning. So make sure your boning is about ½ inch shorter than the main fabric, so it's easier for you to sew the base of your blouse. Okay, so I'm passing all the bonings through all these boning channels. Okay, after doing that, I'll go ahead and iron it flat. I've done that. I've trimmed the base. I went ahead to just top stitch on the base all the way around. Okay, so this is what it looks like on the right side. Okay, and what it looks like on the wrong side. So the next thing I'll do now is to join both front and back piece together. But before I do that, I realized that this shape that we have on the front, we also have it at the back. So what I'll do now is to arrange the back piece like this, folding in my zipper allowance. Okay, my zipper allowance is folded right now. So I'm going to arrange the two back pieces as you can see me doing. So remember when we're creating the shape on the waist area for the front, we came in by 2 inches from the center. So I'm going to mark after my zipper allowance. I'll mark 3 inches this time, not 2 inches. Okay, from that 3 inches, I'm going to connect like this in a curve, and on the side, I'll come in by 2 inches, which is my stitching allowance. Okay, so the curve is not going to get to the stitching allowance. I'll mark that, and the length, the height of the curve is going to be 1.5 inches, just like the front. Okay, I'm just going to connect in a circular form. I don't know if this is a circle, but I'm going to connect like this. Okay, after connecting, I'll trim this part off. I'll place it on the other part of the back just to give it this shape. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut. Okay, after cutting, guys, this is what I have for the back. So next thing I'll do now is to join both front and back piece together. Okay, so I'm going to place them right sides facing right side as you can see me doing. I'll first of all join the shoulders. Okay, after doing that, I'll use my stitching allowance to join the sides. After joining both front and back piece together, this is what I have. So I left opening on the armhole area for me to be able to join my sleeves. Okay, so this is what I have. Next thing we'll do now is to cut out the sleeves. So I've gone ahead to fold my net into 4 because I want to cut both sleeves together. So what I'll do is to measure the length of my sleeves, which is going to be about 21 inches. I'll also I'll join the flat to it. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is to go down on this end by 5 inches, and then I'll come in from the closed edge by 3 inches. I'll connect in a slant from that 3 inches to meet the 5 inches. After doing that, I'm going to place my tape on this curve and measure my round armhole circumference divided by 2, and I'll go ahead and also add stitching allowance to that. Okay, after doing that, you can go down by about 6 inches. Okay, on that 6 inches point, place your round arm measurement, okay, divided by 2, and also go ahead and add stitching allowance. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. After doing that, I'll connect from that point to meet the upper part, as you can see me doing. So the next thing I'll do is to place my tape on the base, and I'll place my round wrist circumference divided by 2. I'll also go ahead and add stitching allowance to that measurement. So I'll connect from this part all the way to the base like this. After doing that, I'll go ahead and cut. So guys, after cutting, this is what I have. I went ahead to notch the center so I know where the center of my sleeves is. Okay, so the length of my sleeves, like I mentioned before, is 21 inches, but I trimmed half an inch from it because my fabric was not equal. So what I'll do now is to figure out the length of my flare. To cut the flare, I'll fold my fabric into 2, as you can see me doing, and then I'll fold it over because I want to get a full circle flare. Okay, so I went ahead to fold it over, so my fabric is folded into 4. So the next thing I'll do is to determine the length of the flare. So first of all, I'll go down by about 2.5 inches. So I'm not using any radius to calculate this flare, but I want it to be wide enough for me to be able to pleat it on the base of the main sleeves. I don't know if you understand. I want the flare to be full. Okay, so that's why I'm taking 2.5 inches. Okay, after doing that, I'll determine the length of the flare plus the stitching and hemming allowance. Okay, so I'm taking 8 inches. Okay, so I'm going to mark 8 inches all the way around. After doing that, I'll go ahead and cut. Okay, so after cutting, this for one sleeves. Okay, so I'll use this to cut the other sleeves. Okay, once I cut out this part, I have a full circle flare. So I'm just going to split one end open. So this is wide enough for me to pleat, okay, on the base of my main sleeves. It's going to give me that full effect. I've used it to cut the second one, and this is what I have. So what I'll do is to just split the ends open, okay, to make it easy for me to pleat it to the base of my main sleeves. So guys, before I pleat the sleeves, I'll first of all go ahead and hem the base. So if you have enough fabric, you can cut out lining for it. If you have lining piece, you can cut out lining for it. For me, I'm just going to hem the base. After doing that, I'll pleat the upper part to the base of my sleeves, and then I'll close the sleeves up. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Okay, so the next thing I'll do now, guys, is to fix the sleeves to the armhole area of my blouse. I've gone ahead to sew the sleeves in place. After gathering, I sewed in the sides. Okay, so what I'll do now is to pin my sleeves to the armhole area of my blouse. So remember, I notched the center of the sleeves. I'm going to place the notched part of the sleeves to the area that has joining on the shoulders. Okay, and then I'm going to pin all the way around. After doing that, I'm going to sew in place, and I'll repeat the same thing for the other part of the sleeves. I've gone ahead to sew the sleeves in place, guys, and this is what I have. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to pipe the waist. Remember, we've not concealed the waistline of our blouse. Okay, so I'm going to pipe it using my bias. I'll be using this fabric as my bias. Okay, so first of all, go ahead and measure around the waistline from the beginning to the end. That is what you use to cut out your bias tape. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut out mine. So the width of my bias is 1.5 inches, and the length is as long as the width of your blouse length is. So just measure around and use what you have to cut it. So I went ahead to turn my blouse to the wrong side first of all. Close up the edge of the band, the bias, sorry, and then sew on the wrong side. Follow the shape that you have and sew all the way to the end. Okay, once you get to the side seam, open it up and continue sewing all the way around. Okay, so after sewing on the wrong side, this is what I have, guys. This is what it looks like. You can go ahead and trim off every excess fabric that is going to hinder you from sewing. Okay, after doing that, I'll turn it back to the wrong side. So you can see that I closed the end of the band. Okay, I folded it in before I started sewing. I'll now fold it again over, just like you see me doing, just like we use our bias to pipe neckline for our dresses. Okay, I'm just going to sew all the way to the end to give me that neat finishing. Okay, I've gone ahead to do that, guys. This is what I have on the wrong side, and this is what it looks like on the right side. Okay, so now that we have done that, the last thing I'll do now is to fix my zipper. So iron your zipper allowance in place so you are able to follow the lines when you fix your zipper. I'll just go ahead and sew the zipper in place. Okay, and yeah, guys, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.